Good morning, everybody. At least I hope it is. Morning radio. Hey, Patty, Sharon, Becky, everybody else. Thank you for joining me this morning. Go ahead and switch over. Got to kill music on that scene. Here's the latest information. It's still a Cat 4, 150 mile per hour now. It's only 7 miles per hour away from a Cat 5. Can it make it? Possibility. Pressure earlier was 944. It has jumped up 1 millibar. No big deal. It's moving west at 8 miles per hour, and it's approximately about 420 miles east of West Palm Beach. And y'all get to see the first views of the visible satellite this morning. Beautiful, man. Just beautiful. Yeah, about 420 miles, something like that. Still a long ways off. And that cone is not up to date. Let me get you the new cone. Got to change the cone. Here's the latest cone. No, that's not the latest. Come on, people. I know you got a new cone. Here we go. That cone's got a lot more curve to it now. And look at the whole western side, or the Gulf side, as Floridians say, is no longer in the cone. Does that mean they don't have nothing to worry about? Wrong. I would still worry. I have seen several hurricanes that ended up traveling outside the cone. And I want to change and show you a little bit different cone. The static image. Now the white part of that cone has the most certainty, and the upper part of that with all the little dots in it, that's the huge area of uncertainty. So and it's going to change. It'll change on the next major update, which will be 5 o'clock this afternoon. So everybody in Florida better be aware that they're going to get quite a bit of this. Even if, like the models are showing, it stays off the coast. The tropical wind field is 105 miles from the center. So even if this thing stays just off the coast, those winds wrapping around are going to be, just nailing everybody. And there are going to be some really strong winds. Now, earlier this morning, the hurricane hunters found 150 mile per hour winds on the surface, but 1,000 feet up, they found winds as strong as 180 to 190 miles per hour. That is nuts. It only needs to be 157 for a Cat 5. But they go by the surface winds. So as this comes around here, all that is going to push the ocean onshore. Now you are in the middle of the king tide cycle. That's where the sun, the earth, and the moon are all in alignment, and it causes the king tide. And depending on what time of day this thing gets close to the coast, you'll have the moon's tide, plus you'll have storm surge on top of that. Yes, it can, Patty. It could still wobble to the west. Matter of fact, it's had a little bit of wobble to it this morning. So, even though right now Miami is outside the cone, it could still hit them. But with those tropical storm force winds, they're not as strong as the hurricane force winds that's around the eye, but still, they're going to be so strong. All of Florida is going to be affected by not only the winds, but the rain. Now, another thing, notice this dot right here and that marker right there. Look how close those are together. And what that tells you, that thing's going to slow down. I listened to Ken, which is the director for the National Hurricane Center this morning, and he's saying by the time it gets over the Bahamas, it's going to slow down to about 2 miles per hour. Now, the problem with that is it's going to sit there over Nassau, Freeport, and all those northern Bahama Islands, and it's just going to rip them with winds, rain. They could get, they're calling for, so far, up to 15 foot storm surge, along with all that tidal stuff. Plus all that rain, they're going to have major flooding. And when they slow down like this, that's usually when they're going to start turning. When it slows down that much. Now notice, I better do this in red. That marker and that marker is further apart. That's where it's going to start speeding up again. But this whole white, solid white cone, that's the one that's got the most certainty. It starts losing and start getting more errors in it when you get past this point. That's the reason why it gets a lot larger there. Oh, you're kidding, Patty. Citizens in the Bahamas aren't taking this thing seriously, and they got a Cat 4 bearing down on them. I mean, they're already seeing storms on these outer bands, which let me show you the satellite view. Got to pull her down here from monitor number 3. And I'll pause this. This is the northern Bahama Islands that's going to get affected. It's not that far away. It's probably going to be another 24 to 36 hours before the center gets to them. But they're going to get these tropical storm force winds sooner than that. So they better be taking this thing real serious. Let that play for a little bit. That is so cool. I love it when the visible satellite is starting to show up like this when the sun's coming up or going down, because it casts shadows and it gives it that nice 3D look. And look at the center. Look at that eye. Those dark areas inside that eye, that's the ocean. So it's cleared that eye out enough to where you can see the ocean. Now, one thing that I'm not sure of, and neither was Dr. Greg Postel on the Weather Channel this morning. Why is this thing lopsided? I know Becky says it's because it's a man. But if you stop and think, ever since this thing went Cat 1, it's always been what we call east loaded. All the storms are over on the east side. And it's, other than a few times yesterday, that it was pretty much the same size all the way around. And then it's went back to being lopsided again. Technically, I thought it was a woman, to tell you the truth, being all lopsided. Now, Greg Postel said, well, maybe there's some wind shear over here on that western side. Guess what? Look at the wind shear profile. I'll have to load it up here. And I'll stop it and go to the newest frame. Okay, right there is Dorian. There's no shear. There's no yellows or anything on the western side. I don't know. You know, it's got me baffled, and it's got Dr. Postel baffled. So, yeah, maybe this thing gender neutral. Good point, Molly. Well, built in to wobble, I have not seen a hurricane yet that didn't have a wobble in its storm track. It's not been a real major wobble. Now let's take a look at infrared. Tranny, a trans storm, a tranny storm. Can we say that on here? Yeah, you know, I lost Port Nassau at 4 o'clock this morning, and I just got it back about an hour ago. And yeah, another cruise ship pulled in there. This thing is amazing. Now, I do believe these Bahama Islands up here are only about 50 miles off the coast of Florida. And the storm is 420, give or take, away from Florida. So you can kind of do the math. To me, it looks like the tropical storm force winds is nearly that Bahama will be like halfway. So go back to visible and let's go look at some models. Get rid of the shear. I'll do the GFS first. Now these are updated. My last real short broadcast at the 8 o'clock update, these models hadn't finished updating yet. Which, by the way, for any of you that was watching at 8 o'clock, I'm really sorry and apologize that it was very short broadcast. I couldn't help it. How does someone build hurricane resistant houses? There's all kinds of methods. Um, I would just Google it because there's a whole lot to that explanation. So let me go ahead and play this, and you can see Dorian down here in the bottom right. This is the GFS just off the coast, right? In that one spot, it could maybe make landfall. I'll back it up here in South Carolina. Right about there. I'll zoom in. Possible. But don't put these models written in stone because they're going to change on the next runs. So it's so far out from this part of the cone that anything can happen. I mean, Lordy, this thing could fool everybody like it did a few days ago and totally go where it's not supposed to. There is some suggestion, and I'll explain why in a little bit, that it could just make a real big right turn and go northeast and not touch any land. A low probability, but it's possible. And remember back a few days ago, it was headed for Dominican Republic, and everybody was worried because there was 10,000 foot mountain there. If it hit that, it would undercut it and pretty near kill it. But then the next day, oh no, it's going to hit the western side of Puerto Rico instead. They moved the center line further east. And all the model tracks and where the actual center ended up going was two different places. It didn't follow none of the model tracks. It went further east and totally missed Puerto Rico and hit the Virgin Islands. So can this thing still hit Florida, make landfall? Could it still go all the way across? Yes. There's just too much uncertainty. And it's already proved that a few days ago. Okay, here's the euro. I'll go ahead and play it first. Looks like the same model. Remember, for those of you that's been watching me for a few days, when I say that the GFS starts showing almost the same thing as the euro, then I start really getting confident in the models. Not 100% though. Comes Georgia, South Carolina. I'll back it up here. It's real close. It's further offshore, right there at South Carolina, Georgia. But it's real close to what you've seen on the GFS. Now I will look, now that it's this close, let's look at the NAM. Now this is a model that I used several days out of a storm chase. And you can see it showing up down here in the corner. There you can see a little wobble. But it stays offshore. Now that's the end of the model run. The NAM nest doesn't go as far out as the other two models. This one don't have the model that I'm looking for. So anyway, there's three models, and the Nam Nest. I know it didn't show you very far, but it kind of had a similar track to it as what the Euro and the GFS did. So now here's another point that I just learned this morning. There's an anomaly in the jet stream up here around this area, South Dakota, Wyoming, and what they are expecting is for that to push down to the southeast. So if that pushes down here, what's going to happen is it's going to push the jet stream down like that and then come up. Okay, that jet stream gets a hold of it. It's going to depend on the timing where it is. But if that jet stream gets a hold of it, it could send it out to sea. It could make it hug the coast. Depending on the timing of when the jet stream pushes down there and the storm actually gets close to it, maybe it makes it make landfall. So, uh, that's another, steering option that might happen. Look at Abaco, and I'll blow this up. Let me go to webcam, blow it up. Look in the background. Now, if I remember right, this camera is at Blue Cove, I think. Look at those clouds in the background and how dark it's starting to get. Well, let's chopping it off. Let's go back to my other scene. There you go. Now you can see it a little bit better. Now there has been some storms for hours that's been pushing across these islands and even going all the way into Florida. I talked to Nathan a little bit ago, and he's down there not far from Palm Beach. And he's already seeing storms moving in. And I can show you that here. Now, this is the radar site at Miami. There in Miami, Florida. You can see some storms starting to move in. And there's all kinds of them coming out of the east. This is all part of one of the outer bands that's swinging around there and slinging these storms out. So unlike yesterday, where all the storms Florida was getting didn't have anything to do with the hurricane, these storm cells are a result of the hurricane. Let's see if I can on radar here pause the loop, and it's showing you some of these outer band storm cells that's popping up ahead of the hurricane. Don't you love that eye? And let's see if I can get Port Nassau to work. And this particular camera there in Port Nassau is part of the PTZ network. There we go. And they have several cameras in all kinds of different places, and it's steered more around the cruise ships. Yeah, the eye it's coming and going with the clouds will fill in and then it'll sling it out. But all of the PTZ cameras went down this morning at 4 o'clock in the morning. I couldn't get any of them. Even the one in Fort Lauderdale or Miami, I couldn't get it to load. I tell you something that's really cool about these cameras. Uh, I used to have a friend that she controlled these cameras, and they've got a mode like you can see it's swinging back. They can program that, but they can also program, let's say a ship came into view, it would stop panning across and focus in on that cruise ship, and as that cruise ship moved, it follow it. Really cool setup that guy's got. It's on the ticker at the bottom of the screen, 9:45. All the information is scrolling on the news ticker at the bottom of the screen. It's only 7 mile per hour away from being Cat 5. Yeah, I remember when St. Martin's got hit. And there's another cruise ship came into port. Apparently, he thinks he can get reloaded and get out of there in time. Now, I do think that Nassau might be on the southern side of the eye wall. I don't think they'll take a direct hit as of right now. But the other webcam, I do believe that they're going to get nailed with the harder side of the hurricane. Okay, anybody got questions? Hey, Etchy. Again, the tropical storm force winds for everybody just joining me is about 105 miles extending out away from the center. Yeah, that's what I thought. I thought this is Abaco here. I knew NASA was further south. I was pretty sure this is on the north. I wouldn't bet. Gavin on YouTube, he's wanting to know who wants to place bets on a Cat 5. I just told you, 9:45. And also I told you it's scrolling on the news ticker at the bottom. That's what the pressure is right now. Yeah, okay. No problem. That's what I got that news ticker down there. Gives you all the latest information on it. Yeah. Well, we just got done looking at the models. So again, it's roughly about 420 miles away of to the east, naturally, of West Palm Beach. Yeah, he managed to get a really nice place to stay with a deck that he can look out at the ocean. So he'll definitely be streaming from there. Yeah, I kind of knew that was coming. Yeah, Nathan's already there. He flew out last night. Yeah, I've got that. I've got that on. See, I need to take that cone off. I can take that off. Do 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 do. Where'd it go? There we go. There's your Florida, Georgia, and South Carolina evacuation zone websites. Oh, I haven't had North Carolina on there because it's really long line. If anybody needs uh, the link put in the chat, let me know. I'll copy and paste it there in the chat so you can click on it and then bookmark it. Already they're worried about flooding just because of king tide. Plus, they've had a lot of rain this past month. So the next update will be 2 o'clock this afternoon, Eastern Time. Uh, Historic equivalent. It's been compared to Irma, not the same track, but its behavior. It's also, been kind of uh, played up with Harvey. And the reason for Harvey is because of the amount of rain that it's going to dump. Okay, Patty, we'll catch you later. Now, the 2 o'clock, I may not go live. I'm going to start backing off a little bit until it gets closer, so I can get some rest. I don't want to blow myself out. But since those are intermediate advisories, the 2 o'clock, 8 o'clock are intermediate, and I may bring the stream up with no audio and well, maybe some music, but I won't be live except for the major ones like the 11 o'clock and the 5 o'clock. And that's just so I can spend some time with my son, get some rest, and get ready for the big show. But if this thing slows down, which they're talking about maybe slowing down to about 2 mile an hour, And if it does that, that's where it's going to remind me like Harvey. Because it's going to set right over those islands there and just raise hell, just like Harvey did. Again, if you're just joining me, right there on your screen, as well as on the news ticker, it's still a Cat 4, 150 mile per hour winds, but it's only 7 mile per hour off of being a Cat 5. Okay, when will I start my 24-hour stream? When it gets real close. When it gets to the point where, updates are coming in really fast. When things start getting critical, serious, then I'll probably start doing that. Now, if it doesn't raise havoc in Florida, then I'll probably wait until it gets up around South Carolina. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, it's still over 400 miles away, so. When it's 12 hours from landfall, depends on how fast it's moving. Could be the tropical storm force winds are already, doing devastation. So yeah, that could be. Blue Lagoon. That's what that Avica camera is. That's the Blue Lagoon. That camera right there. But man, look at them dark clouds back here. They got to be pointed right at it. That could be some of the cells in the outer bands getting close. I'll just have to wait and see, how this thing goes. And I'll let you all know when I'm going to start doing that. Before I start a 24-hour stream, I will be doing longer streams as I'm helping the chasers. I'll be streaming the whole time during that, and still give you the latest updates. So that's all I have for now. Is there any questions? Again, I won't be talking at 2 o'clock when that intermediate advisory comes out. I may stream the screen that's got the radar and satellite with the latest information. Now, if there's a major change in that update, then yes, I'll get on here and talk and let you all know about it. That MB stands for millibars. The lower that number is, the stronger the storm is. What is that, Sharon? Big boring squid strawberry? Need to explain that one. Or I guess I'll just have to click on it and go look. Yeah, that number tells me the strength of that low pressure. The lower the number, the better. Well, for a storm chaser. Yeah, 945. That's pretty strong. I mean, shoot, it's Cat 4. If that pressure was up above 1,000, it would not be a Cat 4. "945 is low, and it will go lower. If this thing gets any stronger, that pressure will go down. Oh yeah, there's some that's been a lot lower. The strongest on record, uh, from what they're figuring, was back in the 1800s, I think. Yeah, I think 899 might be the record. Hey, Armchair. Boy, you got here right when I was getting ready to sign off. But at least you came. Yeah, Sharon, I bet it's not. Especially that one I was just showing. Again, the satellite view. But yeah, Armchair, anybody else that just joined, it's still a Cat 4, barely. 150 mile per hour winds. 157 is Cat 5. And the pressure is 945 millibars. And it's moving west at 8 mile per hour. So, yeah, it's been Cat 4 since yesterday. Alrighty, folks, that's all I have for now. Time for me to get some sleep. I've already had 2 big coffees. And it's cold. Doggone it. So, I'm going to get me some sleep, man. I got 30 minutes sleep this morning. That's all I've had. Thanks, Radio Geek. So, y'all take care. And if I don't catch you at 2, I will go live at 5. 5 o'clock will be a major update. And I guarantee you something's going to change. So, talk to y'all later. Catch you on the next broadcast.